like set up the start of season 4 for us?
Yeah. Well, we set up the story, the big thread of the season in the finale. It's the fact that the world is going to end again. Sort of an apocalyptic, post-apocalyptic show. It's a very different story than we've told in previous seasons. Like, I like to do that every year. I like to sort of, it's a different movie. Season 1 was the origin story. Season 2 was Mount Weather. Season 3 was the AI. And Season 4 is the Earth Strikes Back. We'll see the environment beginning to collapse and crazy shit will start happening pretty quickly. They're going to have to work on how to survive, not whether or not they can stop it. They're going to pretty quickly, this doesn't spoil anything because, I think it's in our DNA at this point. When we say something is going to happen, it usually happens. There's no 11th hour save. So it's about how they're going to survive it, not whether or not they can stop it.
Mark's choice to push the kill switch or whatever.
Another lever. What's up with the lever?
I mean, is there anybody that's going to be upset with her knowing the fact that she pulled the switch and knowing that, the world might end in 6 months?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, she made a choice for everybody. She tried to get Allie to she didn't want to pull that switch when she learned the truth. She tried to say, I think the line was something like, give them back their pain, give them back their memories, and I won't pull that switch, and Allie wouldn't do it. So ultimately, we're going to see a lot of different reactions to that. On the one hand, she just defeated this unbeatable enemy, and yet again, so the legend grows. The legend of Wanheda grows, and we'll see a lot of interesting reactions to her in the first episode. But people, when they find out the truth, are going to be pissed off. Some of them, for sure. It's a good question.
How many levers are going to be pulled in season 4?
I don't know. It's funny because it is definitely obviously a deliberate thing at this point. The lever in season 3 was all a construct of her mind, right? The things were happening, that Flame was in her head, and so Becca was manifesting things that meant something to her. And the lever obviously means something to her as a symbol, and that's why we did that. So I don't know. There might be one. There's certainly, I can think of 3 or 4 points in the season where a lever might be useful. Might make it a button. It might be a button just to differentiate.
Will Allie enter the Flame still play a role in season 4, or is that story done?
How do I answer that? Allie, well, in an interesting way. First of all, yes, the Flame is still there. It's a really important thing. It's a touchstone. It's an artifact. It's not even close to as important as it was in season 4 as it was in season 3. But whoever holds the Flame, even in lieu of a commander, in lieu of a Nightblood, has some political power. So if you are the keeper of the Flame, people are going to listen to you, follow you. That's a story that we're going to tell. So it's important still in that regard, but not even close to what it meant last season. Last season it was everybody wanted the Flame. Allie needed the Flame. Obviously, Antari needed the Flame. Clark was not giving that thing up, at all. It was Lexa in some ways. And so ultimately, it's reduced but still there. We won't forget about it. It'll come back and play an important role eventually.
Could you talk a little bit about different mixed reactions, fans' mixed reactions from last season, how writers might maybe change some things or not?
Listen,
how they might react directly to that.
We don't sit around and try to say, how do we appeal to everybody? We're not trying to do fan service. I'm literally the only person that I'm trying to please, and I hope that when I like something, the fans like it, and sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. I feel like last season there were definitely some controversial calls, for sure. I set out in the beginning of the season to really go dark and really sort of push the envelope in a lot of ways. And obviously some people didn't like the Bellamy turn, and other people didn't like the Lexa death, and obviously the Lincoln death was controversial too. I think what I will say is there were not enough wins in season 3. There was probably a relentlessness to the storytelling that wasn't leavened quite as much as it usually is. A part of that is because Devin and Jasper and Monty's characters, who were usually like kind of comic relief, they both had depressing as hell storylines too. So like we go to comic relief and it's like, oh shit, that's even more dark than the story we just left. So anyway, yeah, I mean we're definitely aware, but I have to trust my instinct as a storyteller. Otherwise, I think you get something like, you know, pop music, and nothing against pop music. Some pop music is great, but that's the only. We're trying to be a little bit more challenging than that. It's still like a post-apocalyptic, pulpy sci-fi action adventure show. So I'm not trying to say it's like Shakespeare by any means, but we're definitely trying to challenge the audience and always put our characters in impossible situations. That's what we try to do. So.